Hello and welcome to episode 14 of our STEM speaker series. Yes, today again we are joined by Mr. Chuck Pawlik and our very special guest, Mr. Daniel Weishoff.
Hi, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, so Daniel, maybe you could tell us a bit about what you do and maybe how you got there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my job is a cyber defense analyst. My job needs me to be a computer detective, a hacker, a programmer, and a psychologist, and it is the perfect job for me. It's my job to protect my business and our people from the hazards of the internet, because the internet is a terrible, terrible place that wants to steal your money. It wants to steal your ideas. It wants your CPU cycles. It wants your attention. And once the technology advances sufficiently, it wants your soul as well. And it's my job to help protect people from that.
Thank God there's people like you out there, Daniel.
Yes. So you mentioned hacking. Now, I think a lot of people might have the understanding, oh, hacking's bad, but this is your job. Tell us why hacking could also be good.
So I think of a hacker as somebody who makes a system, a computer, tool, device behave in a way that it wasn't intended. And oftentimes this is used for no good, but it's also a critical skill and a critical practice for identifying risks and vulnerabilities in these devices. Medical devices, for example, you want them to be as safe and reliable as possible. And the best way to find it out is to give it to a tinkerer or a hacker for 48 hours and find out what they can do to make this thing break.
Sure.
So that way people can fix it, and you won't accidentally walk past a microwave and find your pacemaker doesn't work.
Okay. So how did you get into this?
I got into this because I've always been fascinated by how and why things work. And my career path took me through a windy road of computers and emergency response. And when I discovered that information security would allow me to respond to cyber security incidents, I thought, that sounds fantastic. I can be an incident responder. I can work on computers. I can help people bring these passions together.
Can you tell us more about that windy road?
Sure. I have a visual aid.
Yeah.
Hey, great. We like visual aids.
We love visual aids. You're actually our second guest with a visual aid.
In a row.
And the first was today. Yeah.
All right. Well, I didn't go so far as to do a whole PowerPoint. What we're looking at here is real basic here. So here's me. Here's my career. Starting in 1995 when I was in high school, I loved computers, and that really drove me forward. So my little columns here: my time, my education, my career. And I found myself in college. I had a part-time job doing help desk for the Red Cross. I worked in the campus computer lab, and leaving the college, I worked for the Red Cross doing logistics. Wasn't computers at all. But as I moved through my career, I found that everything that I was doing, if I focused on my passions, brought it back to the things that really motivated me, that I was really building towards something. Let's see, yeah. So, I make systems that detect hackers. I try to stop them, but really what's most important is to detect them, so you know that they're there and you know how to stop them in the future. I think of my game a lot like, my job a lot like a game. I'm part of blue team trying to defend, and the hackers are red team. Sure. They're attacking. And there are there are two kinds of hackers that I'm most worried about. There are cyber criminals that try to make money, And they do things like send emails impersonating the CEO saying, send me gift cards, or they'll distribute ransomware to encrypt my company's hard drives so that we have to send them tons of money to get our data back. They're bad, but for most of these hackers, it's their job. They've found out that for whatever reason, this is a better path for them than getting a normal job, and it makes them money. The other group are state-sponsored and military hacking teams. And that's where the fun is at. These are large teams of professional hackers that work in team environments to pursue national and military goals. And these hackers tend to be well-funded, organized, and cautious. They do things like disrupting critical infrastructure prior to military invasion, like Russia did with the Ukraine in 2016. They steal corporate, political, and military secrets, and they try to influence foreign governments through blackmail and disinformation campaigns. It's very interesting field. And how did I learn the skills necessary to do that job? Well, I'm glad you didn't ask, but I was expecting you to.
I was getting there.
Yeah.
By pursuing my passions.
Great.
It took a long time, but by being cognizant of the things that matter most to me and spending my energy day after day doing the things that give me that satisfaction, I found myself moving forward. So, my passions. The funny thing is, no matter what you're doing, you're always learning. You can't turn your brain off. So whatever you end up spending your time and attention on is what you end up getting great at. I found that by focusing on things that aligned with both my personal interests and my career, I was able to push that whole thing forward. So the jobs I was working gave me the skills necessary to move forward and work new jobs. The education that I was pursuing gave me the skills necessary to move ahead. And along with all of that, I also had these passions that every day I get up and I say, oh man, you know what I like to do? I like games. I like making stuff. I like helping people. And one way or another, those were the things that most satisfied me.
So do you think you wound up right where you need to be?
I have. Where I'm at right now, it delivers me a lot of satisfaction. I'm able to do what I enjoy doing and learn new things. It keeps me on my edge, and I feel like I'm making a difference. And it's a fantastic job for me.
That's great. So you pursued your passions, you found a job that actually matched a lot of those passions, and now you actually like going to work. Yeah?
Yeah, but it's taken a while to get there.
Sure.
So, you know, along my path, I found that all the jobs that I had were all focused around a way to help people.
That's a lot
so
of
I was like, great. Yes, yeah, I've had a lot of jobs. And you know, helping people gave me great satisfaction, and it's a good way to have a job. If you can do a thing that people want, somebody will pay you for it. But as I learned more, I realized I really like making stuff. And what I'm making right now, I'm writing software, I'm designing systems, I'm making honeypots that hackers will try to attack and will ring a bunch of alarms so I know where they are. Making stuff is fantastic. And the more I've advanced in my career, the more making stuff has been important. But along that whole time, games have been important to me. And when I worked at Riot Games, it was bigger than it is working at Rand, but games are still there. I think about my job as a game a lot of the time, as I mentioned, Red Team and Blue Team. But even going further back, I realized when I was on the help desk, every day I would have tickets that I'd have to do. And it felt like, oh, here's a quest. Somebody needs Outlook profile migrated. Boom, I can do this. And every day I'd close so many tickets, and it was like a score. And it's a really, simplistic way of looking at it, but it made me happy and satisfied. But you're not always going to get, oh, there we go. You're not always going to find full satisfaction in your job. Your job does some things for you and not others. That's why we have other passions. That's why we have hobbies and friends and families. And, I realize not only as I was working through my education and my career in order to advance myself, the way that I spend my personal time also funneled back into that. Some of my personal achievements really taught me the skills that I needed in order to advance my career. When I was in college, I did a lot of tabletop game design, which taught me a lot about documentation and organization. And I made a Guitar Hero mod that hit the front page of Gizmodo, which is about making stuff and games. And I helped my dad with a ransomware attack and building a home hacking lab, building a custom hacking laptop, programming a video game. All these things taught me skills that actually funneled back into my education that allowed me to move my career forward in, I wouldn't say a non-conventional way, but it's just sort of important to recognize, the way that we pursue our passions, the way we spend our time helps us in all aspects of our life. And, career is no exception.
Sure.
Daniel, one of the things that we're seeing with many of the interviews that we're doing is you talked about unconventional. That seems to be the convention when it comes to STEM careers, is that they are unconventional. That people have a lot of tools in their pocket and they wind up using them in many different ways. And I think what you're showing us here is exactly that. It's that you're using many different tools that you've learned over the many years, from an EMT to gaming to being that cyber police in some ways, right?
Yes, absolutely. And people skills are no exception. Every day, that I have to talk with people, I have to connect with people, I have to educate people. And, on top of being, hard science and STEM, there's people skills factor into it too.
Sure.
Right. So Daniel, you mentioned sometimes you think of your life as a game. Are you winning?
Am I winning?
Yeah, are you winning the game?
I am, but it's, everybody's playing their own game. You set your own criteria. It's like Minecraft. Why are you playing today? I'm building this castle. Okay, do you build the castle? Are you satisfied with the castle? Were you really looking for the castle, or did you want to build the dungeon?
Yeah.
You want to build the dungeon. Okay, finish the castle. Now make that dungeon. So what I wanted out of life, I'm currently getting, but it's always a moving target too. I can't say that you've ever arrived and you're done, woo, I won the game, because it's always moving forward. And as long as you're moving forward along with it, and you're active and thinking and cognizant of what you need out of life to be satisfied, then, I think you're successful.
Great.
Excellent. Daniel, I feel like as we're talking right now, in the last 20 minutes or so, you've now hacked my whole computer and you now own my bank accounts. Is that true? And if it is, I want it all back.
No, I never use my powers for evil.
Oh, nice. You're like Google.
Yeah. They actually changed their saying. It used to be "do no evil," but that has officially been removed from their corporate dogma.
That's pretty sad, huh?
You know what? They had to make some challenging business decisions, and I think it's at least ethical that they removed that from their corporate saying, than that they kept it in and pretended like do no evil was still the primary goal.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's the future?
Gosh, so the biggest adventure going on in my life right now, honestly, is parenthood. It's probably not where this conversation wants to go. I'm career-wise, I'm living the dream. I'm doing the job that I wanted to do, and I'm enjoying it. And the great thing about my job is that it's always a moving target. There are new techniques, new attackers, new things to learn. So I will by no means be stagnant here. You know, the longer I spend doing my job, the better I'll be at it. The better I am at it, you know, the more satisfied I'll be with my performance, and you know, the more I can help people, and you know, that's what I'm hoping for the future. You know, just continue to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Do you have any advice you might give some young students?
Hands-on experience is fantastic, and there's a lot of resources out there for learning hacking and information security. Let's see. There is a well-developed curriculum for people interested in pursuing a career in information security. There are certificates that you can take courses on to earn that will look good on resumes. There are skills and challenges that you can participate in. There are games, regularly organized capture the flag games, where attackers and defenders compete against each other in a lab environment. There are puzzles where you're given a big stack of data and someone says, okay, find out how the attackers got in and what they stole. And these things are all available free online. You just got to, you know, it helps to know somebody who can direct you towards these resources and who you can talk to when you have questions about it. To that extent, you know, I'd like to offer my availability to any of your students who are interested in learning more and doing more, finding out more about, you know, information security and hacking, and whether that's learning, whether or not that's a passion, because, you know, we're always growing and changing, and if your passions change, you got to be open and free to that. You know, whatever makes you happy right now, you know, chase that, and eventually something will stick that you can make into a career.
One last thing I wanted to ask, you remember the time where you first touched a computer and you're like, I'm hooked, this is what I'm going to spend my life doing?
Yes. I was 14, and I had met a 16-year-old kid who had built his own computer, and he helped me fix mine. I'd gotten malware, and I said, oh my God, there's another kid who can actually fix computers. I could do this too. Like I don't need to just be a kid playing games. I could make my computer that play games. And I learned how to install video card. I learned how to upgrade my RAM. I learned how to remove malware, because I got tons of malware. And I just realized it was a deep rabbit hole. You know, it was all focused around games. How can my computer play games better?
Yeah,
Sure.
But eventually it became, I learned enough that I was like, hey, how can I help people?
Yeah. Chuck's son,
That's great.
Walker, actually just built his own computer, and he sounds a lot like 14-year-old you, right, Chuck?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Excellent.
I don't know what direction he's going to come in, but hopefully he'll be wearing a white hat, not a black hat. You know?
Yeah. He'll be defender versus an attacker.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's important to have the two. I mean, attacker skills are crucial, because that is how your network gets attacked. Knowing what attackers are going to do means you can defend against it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's about good, doing good with it, not causing trouble.
Sure.
Well, Daniel, we can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. I think you've given some great advice to our students. What do you say, Mike?
Yeah, it's been such a pleasure. It's been super interesting. I think your visuals are really engaging, and all I was thinking about while he's doing this, I was like, wow, what a presence you would have had in the actual classroom with the students, Daniel. So
yeah, I'm sorry that we couldn't do it.
Yeah. Hey, but
Whoops.
this is great, and I'm glad Daniel, you were one of the first people I reached out to, and glad we could get you on this, and it's been a real pleasure. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Daniel.
Okay.